This is a presentation of Northeast.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
And welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. Today we're having Byron Williams, Keith Engle, and the Philly Sports Guy. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. How you doing today, Jack?
Hey, good, Mac. You came on pretty quickly. You remind me like of a sprinter who jumps the gun, the opening start. You're false starting this show.
I false starting.
I'm blowing my nose here and it comes on. I'm not giving any warning. Come on.
Jack,
get it together. We got to get a production meeting on here.
Jack,
Mac, you should not have the dual role of this show's host and producer together. There's a conflict here, Mac. You should pick one or the other.
You think so, huh? Well, Jack, I think when you blow your nose next time, just turn around the other way. We don't need to see that. So let's get to the NBA draft, Jack. Victor Wembanyama on J&B Talking Shop, Jim Jeffcoat called him Wham Banana, goes first in the NBA draft to the San Antonio Spurs. Jack, what's your thoughts on Wembanyama? I think I got some, and I know Jim Jeffcoat had some, but what are your thoughts on it?
Well, Jim, the little sour grapes on the part of Jim Jeffcoat, because he's he's located in the Dallas area, Dallas Cowboy sports legend, and he's a little jealous that Victor Wembanyama is going to the San Antonio Spurs, another rival in the state. And this is a game changer for San Antonio. San Antonio is back. You could think of the glory days now. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Tony Parker, and so on. I don't want to go down their whole roster when they won 5 NBA titles under Coach Pop, who's still there. And it's a game changer. Not the first year. He's a tall, thin kid who's going to have to physically develop. He's not going to just walk in and dominate in the NBA. Far from it. Far from it. He might not even be Rookie of the Year, but ultimately he's going to be one of the great NBA players. Worst case scenario, he's going to be one of the best players in the NBA. A lot of people expect him to be the best and be a legendary player for years to come.
Well, first of all, Jim thinks his build, like you said, I don't know if he can put on any weight. I remember Robert Parrish. You can talk about Durant. They're really not big guys. They were thin guys that get hurt a lot. The ankles and the foot and the knees. And you think this is going to be a problem for Wemby there? Do you think that maybe he's going to have injury problems like the other tall, thin guys did?
Every individual is different as far as being injury prone. I wouldn't be overly concerned. It hasn't been an issue with him to this point, not a serious issue. That is, I think what people are intrigued about, here's a player who's 7'4". All players who are 7 foot plus are stereotyped as being a tall rebounder who play underneath the basket. Wembanyama is different. He can play point guard if need be. He can be a shooting guard. He could play in a small forward position, even though he's a giant of a man. And that's the one thing about these tall players. They can only play one way. Shaq couldn't play guard. Shaq couldn't play on the outside. Actually, the one tall man who could was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he never did. They never put him in that spot. Kareem was a great athlete in the way he could dribble and do things well. But Wembanyama could play any position and play it really well. He's a great ball handler, outstanding shooter, excellent defender. So that's the intriguing part. He's 7'4" and can do everything. He's one-stop shopping, Mac.
Yeah.
That's what he is. The rarity, the type of basketball player that's one-stop shopping.
Well, he's been called, a lot of players have been called, generational players. Trevor Lawrence was called was called a once in a lifetime kind of quarterback, and he hasn't been to this point. I think what's happening here is the hype, Jack. Let the kid, as you said, get some years under his belt before we start, putting him in the Hall of Fame. Dave Robinson, we talked before the show. Dave Robinson, would you be happy if Wembanyama was like David Robinson? I wouldn't. How about if he was as good, maybe as a I'm trying to think of another person I can compare him to. Good as a Durant. If he's good as Durant, maybe you have something there, Jack.
Yeah, well, we talked about David Robinson before the show because he was one of the top players in San Antonio Spurs history. He's a Hall of Famer. Would we settle on Wembanyama being the next David Robinson? And you and I concluded no, because we expect at least that, or worst case scenario, close to that. Worst case scenario, we expect him to be more along the lines of a LeBron James and a Michael Jordan as far as the quality went, his overall NBA career. So no, you don't settle on a player like that. There's no reason to. His first year might be a little rough because he's a tall, thin kid. It's welcome to the NBA. He's got to get used to the fast pace. He's got to adjust. But once he adjusts, he's going to be a force. I expected to take a good part of the season. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence. Well, they said he was going to be a generational talent. And the jury's still out on Trevor Lawrence. In all fairness, he's trending upward now. He might be a generational talent when all is said and done. That hasn't been eliminated at all. It's kind of like still a wait and see. But you're right, Mac. Trevor Lawrence didn't come into the NFL and take it by storm the way a lot of people thought that he might have or could or would. Okay? But with coaching is such a vital part of it. In the case of Trevor Lawrence, and I don't mean to talk about Trevor Lawrence, I'm just comparing him to Wembanyama. Trevor Lawrence did not have good coaching in his rookie year. He had Urban Meyer. That would have been about the worst coach he could have had for him for whatever reason. Wembanyama is going to have the best possible coach in Coach Pop. Coach Pop is like a father figure to all these San Antonio Spurs legends. And he's going to move Wembanyama along very gently, very slowly. He's not going to push him in quest of victories because San Antonio right now, they have arguably the worst team in the NBA. That's a major reason why they got him. And Coach Pop's going to move him along very slowly, build him up. And the fans in San Antonio, I believe, are going to be patient because they know what they have.
Another remarkable thing about him, and he did watch videos on the one of the greatest ball handlers in history. I can't think of his name right now. Getting a little brain freeze here, but it's dribbling. Pistol Pete Maravich. He watched videos on him. He dribbles the ball at 7'4", 5", whatever he is, close to the ground. And it's very, can you imagine 7'4" dribbling a foot off the ground? He's got great ball handling skills. He sees the court well because he's so big. Great on block shots. So it's gonna be interesting, Jack, to see what this kid can do in his first year for the.
I was watching Mac this documentary a couple of nights ago. I'd seen it before, but I was intrigued watching it again. ESPN has the 30 by 30 documentary, and they had one on Felipe Lopez. Felipe Lopez played for Rice High School in New York, and coming out of high school, he was the #1 high school player in the nation. He was rated #1, and #2 was Allen Iverson, to give you an idea how highly regarded Felipe Lopez was. And people turned out for him in high school. Alex Rodriguez would go to his games. Other people, he was like a rock star as a high school player. Then he got to St. John's and his performances really slipped to the point where he wasn't even going to get drafted. And then in his senior year, he played well, and he eventually went number 24 overall in the draft and played a few seasons in the NBA, got injured. and never really made the move to come back to the NBA, after that. But you kind of wonder what Wembanyama, is he a sure thing? I think he pretty much is. I think he pretty much is. No one's a sure thing. I don't mean it that way, but I think San Antonio. This is the best number one overall draft pick you could have gotten, at least since LeBron James. And it would have been interesting if him and LeBron were coming out at the same time, and we didn't know what LeBron would do in the NBA. No idea what order they would have been taken and who would have been taken ahead of who. And we see the way LeBron turned out.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. The rest of the top 10, number 2, Brandon Miller went to Charlotte. Number 3, Scoop Henderson went to Portland. Number 4, the Rockets got Amen Thompson. I think he's from. I think he's one of the.
Well, they got the Thompson brothers. Went 4-5.
That's what I was just gonna say. Oscar Thomas went from OT Elite. What is that, Jack? I've never heard of OT Elite.
Yeah, that's an outside league. But I'm going to tell you this draft, Mac. It was broken up into a few different sections. Wembanyama had a section all to himself. Let me make a comment. Commissioner Adam Silver started the proceedings. San Antonio was on the clock. Why did they take close to 5 minutes, the full 5 minutes, to make their selection before it was announced? Why did we have to wait? I mean, why did they make it a longer night? They could have cut, the few minutes off. I don't want to hear about, well, they wanted ESPN and the NBA channel to show the highlights. We knew he was going to be taken number 1. There was no suspense. Why make us wait? That's why the NFL draft used to be so ridiculously boring. It would be 10 minutes between selections, and teams knew who they were taking, yet they take the full 10 minutes. Do you think we're dummies? Do we think teams are calling San Antonio and offering a deal in the last few minutes that San Antonio is going to take? Do we think the Knicks are calling and say, take our whole team for Wembanyama? You have a whole team. Take everyone. Come on. I mean, give me a break here. Just make the pick immediately. The same with Portland going number 2, taking Brandon Miller there. I'm not Portland, Charlotte. Excuse me.
Right.
Which that's section 2. Charlotte took Brandon Miller number 2. Okay, and Portland took Scoot Henderson number 3. Those were the obvious picks, 2 and 3. There was a little doubt who would go ahead of who. It was felt Brandon Miller was going to get picked by Charlotte, but there was a little doubt. And then there were the Thompson brothers, 4-5, with all the rest.
Right.
To me, it wasn't a suspenseful NBA draft. I'll be honest, Mac. It was about the most uneventful NBA draft I've ever seen.
Wow. Well, let's finish it up. 6, Anthony Black from Arkansas to Indiana. Bill Colibali, I'm saying that wrong, from Met 92, whatever that is, traded to the Wizards, and the Wizards get James Walker from Houston when they traded him to Indiana. Utah
Wizards in a rebuild.
Right. Utah drafted Jarvis Walker. Houston traded him to Indiana. Dallas got Carson Wallace from Kentucky, traded him to Oklahoma City. So a lot of trading there back and forth for whatever reasons. I guess the team had the reasons to do that. The biggest news to me, Jack, and I think to you too, was the 3-team trade. Korazinga is now a Celtic. Marcus Smart is a Grizzly with 2 first-round draft picks. There's a lot of clout.
3-way trade. Washington gets a couple of the picks, and
right. So, what do you think? Does Korazinga help the Celtics, Jack?
Well, who's helped most by this deal? And I don't like this deal for the Celtics at all. As far as Washington goes, let's talk all 3 teams. They're in a rebuild. Okay, let's see how it works out. They're looking to dump players and basically start all over. They don't want to be a playing team, and the reality is Washington it peaked out. In the way they're rebuilding, I'm a little skeptical. They're going to have a long road back before they're a playoff contender. The Celtics trade Marcus Smart, who's been there 9 years, his whole career, who loved being a Boston Celtics. The fans in Boston love Marcus Smart. And you trade him away. I mean, if they were going to trade anyone, it should have been Jaylen Brown. I mean, they should have gotten Porzingis, at the expense of Jaylen Brown. I thought they were going to just add Porzingis to the core of three. Marcus Smart is one of the best defensive players in the NBA. He goes to Memphis. He essentially replaces Dillon Brooks. He's a better version of Dillon Brooks, a better player than Dillon Brooks. He's going to improve the Memphis Grizzlies. If Jay Morant can come back after the 25-game suspension, have his head together, play hard, play well, the Grizzlies are going to be a force in the West. They really are. As far as Porzingis goes, it's the chemistry. Him, Brown, and Tatum together, I don't know about it. I just don't know about it. Porzingis had a really good year last year, his best year since he left the Knicks for Washington, averaged 23 points a game, showed up, played well, played hard. But I don't think this is a game changer for the Celtics. Losing Marcus Smart for Porzingis might not look bad on paper. Chemistry-wise, I don't think this helps the Celtics. I think, if anything, it's a tiny step backwards.
Okay. Well, I mean,
much for loyalty, Matt. A 9-year Celtic who wants to finish his career as a Celtic, loves the city, they trade him.
Yeah, I agree. I think Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies is probably the best. The Grizzlies got the best of everything. Marcus Smart has been in the playoffs. He's an adult. He's not a kid. I think he's going to be big in the locker room. I think a lot of the players there are going to respect him, what he's done with the Celtics. So I think the Grizzlies are made out the best. I don't think the Celtics are as bad off as you think, Jack. I think Porzingis gives them a presence in the middle, blocking shots. He's a great three-point shooter. So, I don't think it's as bad as you say. I think maybe it's an even swap, really. I don't think it does one thing for the Celtics either way.
I think chemistry-wise, like I said, Marcus Smart for Dillon Brooks, basically, what Memphis is doing.
Yeah.
And I think they come off better.
I do too. I think.
And now Porzingis instead of Marcus Smart, does that help the Celtics chemistry-wise on the court? That's what I mean. If you want to just say, well, who's better, Porzingis or Marcus Smart, even though they're different type of players, we could argue that point. I can understand the point. Well, Porzingis could be a force. But you have Jaylen Brown's performances were slipping the past year. Now the Celtics have a dilemma to give him the big contract or not. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it in the case of Jaylen Brown. The Celtics are basically Jason Tatum's team at this point, or should be. Going into last year, it was both Brown and Tatum. They were co-stars of the Celtics. This year, it's got to be Tatum. He's got to be the man as far as the Celtics are concerned.
The Wizards trade Chris Paul to Golden State for Jordan Poole. How does that really help the Golden State Warriors when Jordan Poole really is, I think, is a better player than Chris Paul?
Yeah, Mac, I think we lost power. Do you see my picture on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I lost power with my picture over here. Okay, yeah. I can't see you, but you could see me. That's all that really counts. To me, I'll make believe I'm doing a radio show with you now. Okay, but that's good. Okay, Mac. The thing is, Chris Paul is going to be a rotation player with Golden State. Now, Jordan Poole, there were high hopes for him, and it was not a disappointing regular season. People point to the altercation with Draymond Green in the preseason. They point to that, and they said that's the reason the chemistry wasn't good, this and that. And they might be right. Even Draymond Green questioned the Warriors. Was the team hurt by his actions? To his credit, he brought that up. But Jordan Poole, after having a good regular season, was dreadful in the playoffs. dreadful
Right.
in the playoffs, and reportedly their attitude problems as well, as
Okay.
far as Jordan Poole goes. So, which Jordan Poole is Washington going to be getting? Washington has no hopes of going anywhere in reality. They really don't with the roster they have. So Jordan Poole should step in as their star, their number one player. And is he going to be stat crazy? Or is he going to try to be some type of a leader with the players they have around them? But this is a time for Jordan Poole basically just to put up numbers, and it's not a good situation for Jordan Poole as far as winning or losing, obviously. But unlike being with the Golden State Warrior team where he just had to blend in to a team full of stars led by Steph Curry, now he's going to be the main guy in Washington, because even Washington, Kyle Kuzma is declared for free agency, so he wants out, and it's a complete rebuild there. So it's
Right.
going to be interesting what Jordan Poole's attitude is going to be in Washington.
Okay. All right.
And Matt, Chris Paul should help the Golden State Warriors with his experienced rotation player. They don't need him for the firepower, for the scoring. They need him for the stability he could provide on the court. And he's such a respected veteran. He'll fit in fine at Golden State.
Okay. All right, Jack. MLB scores. We have Minnesota beating Boston 6-0. Seattle trounces the New York Yankees 10-2. Atlanta beats Philly 5-1. That was the locals that played last night. Today you have the Mets at Philly, Texas at the New York Yankees, and Boston at the White Sox. We talked about Josh Donaldson a little bit. Thanks, babe. Him and Volpe had an error during the inning where Volpe kind of bobbled the ball, went to throw it to Donaldson, and Donaldson wasn't ready for it, Jack. So Donaldson's affected. Normally he has a great glove. I don't know if he wasn't paying attention. I don't know what was going on there. But it looked Bush League, Jack. And I think that's why some of the Yankee fans are really upset. They're at the games. They're booing everybody. They're booing Donaldson especially. So as you said, maybe Donaldson is gone. Maybe he's gone before the year's out, Jack.
Well, Donaldson, this is his last year on his contract with the Yankees, Mac. Donaldson's gone at the end of the year. I can't imagine any possible scenario where the Yankees are going to keep him beyond this year. I don't even think Donaldson's going to last this year out. I'm going to be frank. I'm going to be honest about it. I mean, it wears on you all the booing, on the organization I'm talking about, to hear the Yankee fans have such discontent. But Donaldson's doing the rest of the team a favor indirectly, because the rest of the team isn't hitting and the fans are focusing on Donaldson because they see his batting average. What's it the last time I looked? 128 or so. DJ LeMayo hasn't been hitting. Stanton is down to 190. It's ridiculous. Gleyber Torres has been mediocre. Volpe, fans are being somewhat patient with him because he's a young player, but they wonder whether he should be sent down, even though these last few games he's been hitting, the ball a little better. Sure. And the whole team is shut down, it seems, since the Judge injury. I mean, Rizzo's been disappointing as well.
Very true, Jack. I mean, they did take 2 out of 3 from Seattle. That's the first time they won a series without Judge. Herman I don't know what's up with Herman. Herman doesn't look good at all. I don't know if he's thinking about something bother him. I don't know, but he sure didn't look too good last night. Cole and the young kid, the pitcher, Jack, the young kid that came up. I'm trying to remember his name right now.
You're not talking about Nestor Corte. No, not Nestor Corte.
The young kid that keeps Brito pitched well in the second game too. So 2 good outings for them guys.
But Mac, there's one thing we have to notice comparing the Yankees to the crosstown rival, the Mets. The Mets are in serious trouble in not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
They've been terrible, and they're so far behind in the division race. And they're not likely to catch Atlanta to win the division. They're going to have to get in as a wild card. And there's several teams who are ahead of the Mets, who are strong teams, and even the teams that are playing like the Mets, something like the San Diego Padres, I mean, they're going to move forward. They're going to be fine moving forward. At least the Yankees, if the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs, actually. So as bad as things have been, as bad as they've been, the Yankees are on a good spot as far as at least making the playoffs are concerned.
Agree. Major League Baseball news: the Commissioner Manfred regrets giving Astros full immunity in sign stealing scandal under condition they told the truth. Does anybody even care about this story anymore about Houston Astros stealing signs, Jack?
Revisionist thinking, Mac. Revisionist thinking. Rob Manfred's entitled to say, well, maybe I made a mistake. I wish I'd done things differently.
Right.
Okay? I mean, some people say it if there's something that they can gain by it later on. For example, Pat Riley, he put LeBron James down when he left the Heat, this and that, to go back to Cleveland. And then years later, Pat Riley said, oh, LeBron made the right decision after all. Time proved he did. Riley was saying it because LeBron was going to be a free agent again, and he wanted LeBron to come back to Miami. So right. Pat Riley, he had his ulterior motives to say what he said, okay? But in the case of Rob Manfred, there can't be any ulterior motives. He just basically blew it. Yeah. He blew it. The team cheated, and they got away with it. He gave the cheaters immunity. Yep. He gave them all immunity. There were no penalties. I mean, what did he do? A.J. Hinch was suspended for a year. Alex Cora was suspended for 1 year, and then both of them were allowed to manage again. Carlos Beltran was hurt the most by it. The players weren't, okay? Yeah. And they got away with it. You know what he could do? If Rob Manfred is really that sincere and it really bothers him enough, put an asterisk next to Houston's title win, okay? Put an asterisk next to it and let that be in the record books. When people look at the list of World Series winners, they'll always see that asterisk, and future generations are going to ask, what's that about? And then it could come up, well, they cheated. Then at least Major League Baseball took some type of action. They could say, yeah, the Astros are the World Series champions, but it's tainted.
Yeah.
But he could do that. Rob Manfred could still do that. So either do that or shut up, Rob. Don't tell us, start venting what you think you could have done. No one's doubting your sincerity, but you could still do something about it if you really wanted to.
One of the reporters there asked him if he ever thought about vacating the World Series to the Astros.
Well, not now. Not at this point, Mac. I don't think you vacate the World Series and say the Astros aren't World Series champions, but you can put an asterisk next to it. You know what it is? What the Astros did crossed the line, but I think in baseball, we neglect. Teams cheat all along. They tried to cheat. That's why teams have signs, Mac, because the other teams are trying to find out what they're doing. They're trying to gain every edge, but sometimes there's certain lines you don't cross. And I think the Astros got a little carried away. Even the players, I don't think they fully comprehended their actions at the time. But it went, a little too far. And there's certain codes and certain things you don't do. And the Astros crossed that line. And players are still resentful. One of the pitchers who striked out Carlos Correa not that long ago, I can't recall his name, to end the game, he said he was especially satisfied to strike out that cheater, Carlos Correa. You want to know something? Carlos Correa has a big mouth. Big mouth. So when they stick it to him that way, I have little sympathy for Carlos Correa.
Yeah. The Texas manager is upset with the MLB replay about the catcher blocking the plate, and this isn't the only person that's upset with it. What happened, Jack, is that the outfielder throws the ball home, and of course the catcher's not supposed to block the plate to avoid that collision. But the ball is thrown home. The catcher catches the ball where it's thrown. The runner's coming at him. He has no other choice but to catch the ball and tag him. So this rule should have some kind of exception to it, Jack. It's not like he's catching the ball, running in front of the plate and blocking it. The ball is right there. It's bam, bam. And the guy on the replays are calling him safe now.
Well, the catcher has a right to go for the ball and catch the ball. You can't deliberately block the plate. You can't have those runner-catcher collisions. They're very dangerous. You know, it's part of the game for so long, and that's unfortunate. Remember Pete Rose just running into Ray Fosse. I mean, if Pete Rose did that in this day and age, I mean, he would be suspended, flat out suspended. Yeah. I mean, it would be considered a flagrantly dirty play. But at the time Pete Rose did it, he was praised as being, you know, Charlie Hustle, being a competitor and all that. And what if a catcher if the catcher gets the ball with plenty of time to spare, he can't be blocking the plate. The runner has to have at least a path to the plate to avoid the catcher, because if he doesn't, what's the runner supposed to do?
Right. I don't disagree with that. I just think there should be an exception that if this ball is thrown and he's just catching the ball where it's thrown, he can't help but block the plate. That shouldn't be.
You can't help. Yeah, some situations you can't. You can't help but block the plate, unfortunately.
Right.
But with that said, you know, if it's a bang play, nothing can be done about it, you know, as far as the catcher goes. But if he gets the ball with a little time to spare, I'm not saying to move out of the way, but you can't block the whole plate. You have to give the runner a path, but at the same time be in position to tag him with the path you're giving him.
Agreed. Reds closer Alex Diaz right now is the most dominating closer in the Major League Baseball. In 32 appearances, he's only allowed 15 hits, Jack. He's got a 2.03 ERA. I mean, he's no Mario Rivera, Jack. He doesn't have a 0.96 ERA, but he's probably the most dominant closer in baseball today.
Now look at this. And he's a big reason the Cincinnati Reds have been on a tear.
Yeah.
They've been one of the surprises. They started the year a little slow, and they seem to be putting it together. Matt, do you think the Reds are for real, or they just had like a good patch?
Well, I picked them to win the division this year, Jack. I don't know if they're going to or not, but I did pick them to win the division just off their pitch. And I didn't know what's going to come from the bullpen, but I'll take it. I mean, that's great news for the Reds. They've been so close to winning that division in the last few years. So maybe this year they do it. Blake Snell strikes out 11 in San Diego. Gone. There we are. I'm back. And Jack's kind of messing around. Maybe Jack can see me now. Can you see me now, Jack?
You know, sometimes I plug my thing and I'm having there's some sort of power outage or something. Something's in the area going off. I can hear you, Mac, but I can't see you. If I plug this in and then unplug it, I can see you for a couple of seconds, Mac. Otherwise, it's like I'm doing radio on this show.
Okay, I checked. The producer checked to make sure that we were both being seen, and we are on Facebook. So we're both being seen by the audience anyway. So as I said, Blake Snell had a great game.
Good or bad. We might be better off doing radio, Mac. I mean, I don't know. I check once in a while, like now, to just see myself. But now I'm going to go dark in a few seconds. I see myself now. Now I'm dark again. But no one wants to hear this. They want to hear sports, Mac. They don't want to hear you and I venting about all the technical difficulty we're having.
In NFL news, Miami wide receiver Tyreek Hill under investigation on allegations of assault and battery from hitting a person who worked at the marina down in Miami. He hit him in the back of the head from an argument about fishing from the dock. So I guess in that county, you can't fish. I think he was fishing for marlin. I don't know how you do that from the dock. But
I'm sorry, Matt.
Go ahead. But anyway, he's under investigation, Jack. So real grown-up thing from Tyreek Hill.
Matt, there's got to be more to situations like this. I don't want to pass judgment so quickly, even though you feel people should avoid situations like that. When it gets heated, you got to walk away. If I'm in charge of something like a marina and I tell someone they can't fish, and I tell Tyreek Hill he can't fish the bass, Tyreek Hill just going to hit me in the back of the head. Is his response.
It was an argument.
Yeah, stuff has got to go down a little bit. Who knows what's going down? And you want to look at the person's whole record, of actions. It'd be interesting if you had a league and you had a commissioner who didn't do anything about behavior like this. They figure, look, this is up to law enforcement. As long as the guy's not in jail, he's free to work. He can play the games. He could be on the team. And they don't manage anything. I mean, I'm not saying that's the way to go at all. But, I like the idea that the team is managing conduct because you have a fan base, and it's hard to root for guys that are knuckleheads. Let's be honest about it. Or women athletes where you feel are totally out of line with some of their actions as well.
Yeah.
So you want the league to kind of have a semblance of control, as far as what's going on. But sometimes there's more to the situation than meets the eye. I mean, whenever we hear there's an athlete is accused of something, we're going to want to condemn him. Look at the Buffalo Bill punter who was drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the 6th round, Matt Ariza. He was clear that those charges of rape. No charges are being pressed against him. And yet no NFL team is even going to give him a tryout. I mean, because he was so stained by the false accusations. And it's really a, bad situation in something like that. All someone has to do is be accused of something and they're stained forever. And that's wrong.
Yeah, I think your team gave him a tryout, Jack.
It was on Real Sports. A couple of teams inquired. Why didn't the Bills take him back?
I don't know.
The idea if someone's accused of something, I mean, let them keep playing until it runs its course, unless it's so obvious that they're guilty. They could plead not guilty, but if it's so obvious they were involved in something, and the word is obvious, then I could understand being active from them. Or the Buffalo Bills didn't have to cut Matt Ariza. They could have said, you're on the inactive list. You're inactive for now. When your situation gets resolved, you'll come back to camp. And when it got resolved, they should have taken him back, unless they were happy with their punt on the interim. But it's totally unfair. Totally unfair. I mean, remember the craze we had with the Duke lacrosse team? Oh, yeah. Everyone was condemning them as being guilty, this and that. They were ready to hang them, and they were innocent.
Yeah, I remember, Jack. I remember. For those expecting Byron Williams, he just messaged me. He's on the side of the road with a flat tire, and guess what? He's here. Byron Williams is a true warrior. How you doing?
Discount tire.
Darn it, Byron! You're a better man than me. I would not be hanging out there. If I have a flat tire, I would be attending to my flat, Byron. I wouldn't be doing the Mac and Jack show on the side of the road.
Yeah,
he's at this.
I got Jim Jeffcoat is here too. We getting ready to do that golf tournament in my hometown, and we doing the football camp tomorrow. But I just wanted to pop in and show you my face and let you know I'm at Discount Tire right here.
Okay, and, Byron.
That's how you got a flat tire in the first place, Byron, by always picking up these discount tires. Man, they're selling you these used tires, and because you're getting a great deal, you're paying next to nothing for them. You got a ride on those, Byron. Come on, man. You need good tires.
I'm looking for a sponsor, so maybe Discount Tire needs to make us some commercials.
Oh, no, discount tires are good. No, discount tires are good. I don't mean discount tires. I'm not putting down discount tires, the place. I'm not doing that at all. I'm just saying, you got to get tires to match your car.
Okay, Byron.
Hey, but I got AAA.
There you go.
That's good.
They didn't even come up. They didn't even show up this morning.
They didn't.
No, I'm gonna have to talk to AAA. We got to find some people that gonna sponsor us and sponsor the show. So I'm gonna start working on sponsorship.
Wait. Are you in Dallas now?
No, I'm in my hometown of Texarkana. I'm on the border of Texas and Arkansas.
Man, yeah. Okay. I thought if you told you in Dallas, you told me we were Jeff Coat, they would run down quickly.
Yeah, Jeff Coat is at the hotel. He's still sleeping in. Now he's out walking around sweating and getting working up before the golf tournament started in an hour, and we gonna see who can play golf today for sure.
I give Jim credit. He has a good golf game. I got to give him his due on that.
All right, I don't. We gonna see today if he can play in the East Texas over here in this hot sun. So we'll see.
All right, Byron. I'm gonna let you go.
But I just want to say good morning to you guys, and y'all have a great day. Have a great weekend. And I'll see y'all next time.
Good morning, Byron. Take care, my friend.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. Byron Williams at Discount Tire, and Jack saying Discount Tire is no good. I don't know.
No. I'm mentioning cheap tires are no good. I don't know about Discount Tire. I'm not putting them down.
Okay.
I'm not putting them down. I don't know the quality of their tires one way or the other.
Okay. So back to some NFL news. Deion Sanders will never coach in the NFL, he says. Too old school. His style wouldn't mix with today's NFL players, grown-up men getting checks, not doing their jobs.
I'm not sure about that, Mac. I'm sure if he got an offer to coach an NFL team, he would seriously consider taking it.
I would think
they talk a lot, because no one's offering Deion a job now. It's his attitude, who cares? It's Mac, he would take it. He would take it if the team suddenly called.
The biggest question I have is why are you putting down the players that you might end up coaching eventually? I mean,
he's talking about old school values, the way he showboated, Mac.
Right.
Come on. And look in the Super Bowl, for example. They played him on an offense, a play, and they threw deep to him just to satisfy his ego.
I know.
Old school players wouldn't have been, with that. They wouldn't have rebelled the way he did when he was a player. Come on.
I agree 100%.
Kidding. They wouldn't give themselves nicknames like prime time, try to, put their image ahead of the image of the team. And, he was a great player, the best lockdown corner I've ever seen. But come on, don't talk to me about old school values. He reminds me of Russell Westbrook, who feels he's always picked on. Russell Westbrook was going after another player for disrespecting old-time values by taking a shot as the buzzer went off to end the game, even though the game was no longer in doubt. Okay? And he said old school players would never do anything like that or something to the effect. But old school players did that all the time.
Of course they did.
3, 2, 1, they heaved up a shot just for the heck of it, and no one cared. But in this day and age of sensitivity, guys like Russell Westbrook care, but they use the excuse of old-time values. It's new-time values, Mac, not old-time values. They don't respect the old-time values.
I agree 100%. Aaron Rodgers is pushing for the acceptance of psychedelics, I guess, in the NFL, Jack. I mean,
I don't know what psychedelics
Jack.
Come on.
The guy's crazy.
Psychedelics.
New York Giants, Sports Illustrated, Albert Breeze says Barkley should take the deal offered by the Giants by the deadline, Jack. That's a 3-year contract for about $14 million a year.
Well, how much is guaranteed? That's the key point about it. How much of the money is guaranteed? Now, running backs are really underpaid. I can't tell Saquon Barkley what to do. If he came to me to advise him, it's wow. Let's say they're offering $28 million guaranteed out of $42 million. You got to think of your future and to say, if I get hurt, is this guaranteed money going to last me the rest of my life where I can be comfortable, where I can live comfortably? And you would think the answer would be, yeah, absolutely yes. How many people make close to 30 million over a couple of years if that's the amount that's guaranteed? And you can, and you have quite a bit after taxes. You can invest, a good part of it, and you could just flat out be comfortable after that. Or you can take the risk of having a great year. They can franchise tag Barkley again next year.
Yep, sure
That's the problem. And this year it's 10.1 million. Next year it's 12 point something. So you're talking about a little over 22 million for 2 years. And you're taking a risk. You might not get next year's money if you get hurt this year.
Very true.
All players, especially football, their careers one play away from ending. Okay, and it's risky. But from the Giant point of view, Mac, we're looking at it from Barkley's point of view, what he should do with security. You really want to go into this season with Saquon Barkley on the $10 million franchise tag that they didn't work out a deal. He's not going to be happy. And it's going to be a distraction all year long. Even though Barkley might put out on the field, he's your captain. How enthusiastic can Barkley be about the team if he's playing under this franchise tag? Yeah, his own performance, he'll put out the effort. But he's not going to be one of these guys who's going to try to rally the whole team. He's just going to treat it as business, strictly as business and nothing more. And you get the feeling, the vibes around the Giant organization aren't going to be as good as they would be if he were under like a deal that would be satisfactory to at least both sides.
I don't think Barkley can change his personality, Jack. He approaches the game one way, and that's he's excitable. He likes to have fun. I don't think he changes, even if he plays under the free agency tag. He just loves to play football, and you see that every time he gets on the field. So I don't think his personality changes. I just think if you're got a chance to get 3 years at $14 million a year, even with half being guaranteed, you're foolish not to take it. So we'll see what happens.
Mac, I mean, the franchise tag, he has his money guaranteed this year under the franchise tag, a little over 10 million. He's made some money before. He's got to sit down and look at his finances. What's the worst case scenario? If I get injured and never play again, do I have enough money to last me the rest of my life? And you would think that he would have, with the franchise tag this year and the money he's made, somewhere close to 10 million after taxes. And you invested and you're in good shape. Yeah. Is he willing to gamble, not gamble? I mean, certain players want security, and certain don't. You think of Jeff McNeil, the Met player. He was 2 years away from free agency. He took less money than what he would have gotten had he played it out, the next couple of years. He got 50 million actually for 4 years, at least for 4 years. And the Mets had an option of 5th year that would have brought it up to close to 64 million. And he said he wanted security. That was his thing. He could have tried to become a free agent, but he said you're one play away from your career ending.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to take that risk. And but also from the Giants' point of view, if they're willing to offer Barkley the 42 million, why not just guarantee most of it? I mean, a running back like him is underpaid at 14 million a year anyway, as are all running backs now. Just guarantee him the money and say, look, this is the amount you're getting. It's guaranteed, or at least most of it. Guarantee 35 million of the money is something like that, 38 million, but who knows? I think also this will get done. They have till July 17th. I think the Giants feel we could stretch this out and eventually we'll give him a deal that'll make him happy and all's going to be forgotten before the regular season begins. So the Giants are being coy, hoping maybe Barkley accepts their offer. And if he doesn't, I think they're going to be willing to make a move, before the July 17th date.
I agree. Ex-Giant Kadarius Toney gives the middle finger to New York with a Super Bowl ring on it. The time Toney spent with the Giants, mostly injured, and he had a rift with management. Is that really grown up, Jack? I mean, grow up. You know, I mean, you're with the Kansas City Chiefs. Be happy. Why you got to give the middle finger to New York? I don't get it.
Yeah, let me tell you, you see that in different ways too. You see these athletes, and I think they should get suspended for this. And people are going to say, well, I'm being too harsh. A visiting player, they hold their finger up to their lips to let the rest of the crowd know when they're on the road to be quiet, like, shh, be quiet like this. I think that's cause for maybe not a suspension, but a fine. None of that nonsense should go on, okay? And Kadarius Toney, one of the reasons the Giants moved on from him was because of a lack of maturity, and that's a reason why Kadarius Toney wasn't a major factor in the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl beyond that great kick return that he had in the Super Bowl. But with that said, I think he was a great pickup for the Chiefs for third-round draft choice with the Giants, and he's going to thrive with Patrick Mahomes there. So, and I think the Giants, maybe they gave up on Kadarius Toney too soon. Maybe you work along with him. If it's maturity issues, it's a question of just having patience. If he was rebelling, was a bad guy in the locker room, that's another matter. But the indications were he just lacked a certain maturity. So sometimes you have to work with guys. Listen, the greatest Giant of all, LT, lacked maturity a lot of the time. He was a difficult guy, you know, but he's such a great player. The Giants had patience with him. You're not going to tell me LT's maturity level was on the level of Harry Carson or Leonard Marshall and the others. LT had his issues, but the Giants were patient with him because of his talent. And I'm not saying Kadarius Toney's on that level, but he certainly is, you know, has had the potential to be their best receiver, and he was their number one draft pick. Maybe their new coach, Brian DeBall, should have shown a bit more patience.
Yeah, I think that was not made by DeBall. I think that was made by upstairs. I think the GM made that call, Jack.
Well, Joe Shine, the GM, and Brian DeBall are very close. They came from Buffalo together. So I can't believe the coach didn't have tremendous input in that decision.
Okay. Let's see. Paris Campbell is willing to play some running back for the Giants. When he was with the Colts, he posted the fastest time in the NFL at 22.1 miles per hour, Jack. So he's willing to go and play some running back for the Giants if needed, as well as be a wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The stuff with the combines, I mean, it doesn't do that much for me, Mac. The guy's running. What?
No, I'm talking about when he played with the Colts.
Yeah. No. I didn't mean the combine. I mean stuff like the combines. I meant to say. I don't want to hear how fast someone's running and how they show such agility and this and that. You know, that was the big talk around Anthony Richardson being drafted number 4 overall by the Colts. He hasn't proven himself as a quarterback, and I hear he's struggling somewhat, you know, in the workouts with the Colts. But then everyone says the same thing. But, oh, what athletic ability. He could outrun all his mistakes. And you want to know something? They're not wrong. If you're a great athlete and, you know, and it's a running league for quarterbacks now, you can outrun mistakes like in any other position in a sense. But they always point to a player's athleticism who's very quick when he's struggling, okay? Everyone always tries to put a positive spin on everything. Why can't they just say a player's been performing awfully in training camp? He's been terrible. He better get his act together. Everyone is wonderful in training camp. But here Zach Wilson is lighting it up for the Jets. Oh, he's threading the needle in training camp, you know, when he has his opportunity. Come on. I mean, I don't want to hear your favorite quarterback, Trey Lance with the Niners. We hear how nicely he's coming along. what nice throws he's making during practice. I want to hear about guys who are doing terrible, Mac.
Did you hear Purdy?
Guys are being awful. That's
Purdy's
what I want to hear.
They say Purdy's going to be ready for the regular season, Jack. So he's going to be the number 1 quarterback, according to the coach.
Well, he has some support within the team, big-time support like George Kittle. They feel he's earned the number 1 position to be quarterback. I don't, but there's a certain pressure that the Niners brass is going to have on them. And it comes down to this, Mac, the pressure that they're going to have. Brock Purdy led the Niners on a big-time run last year. They won like 7 in a row, okay? And he was a game manager, okay? I won't say it was because of him, but he was a good captain of the ship. And they had success with him. And in the playoff game, they lost. Purdy was injured flat out. I mean, he never had a chance to show what he could do, in the playoff loss to the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. So to take the job away from him, who are you going to give it to? If you give it to Sam Darnold, who I think should be the starter personally, that would be demoralizing for the team. They figure, why are they starting Darnold, who's basically a stranger who just came over to the Niners, ahead of Brock Purdy, who's been our guy? And then there's Trey Lance. He's the guy the Niner front office wants to win the job because he's the guy they made the trade for, giving up the couple of number 1 draft choices. But Trey Lance was out last year, so it's kind of a way to give it to Purdy nearly by default. That's what I think is going to happen. But now, who's the number 2 quarterback? If it's Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy's far away from starting. If he's, 3rd on the depth chart, it's a very intriguing situation with the Niners because they might make a bold move and they might just start Trey Lance for all we know. I mean, who knows what's really going to go down? But we all also know, Mac, you understand team sports. If the players want one guy to start, it does put a lot of pressure on the coaching staff to play that guy.
Yeah. I still think Purdy starts, Jack. We'll be right back after these promotions. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these 2 former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat. If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
See right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get us any.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. Jack, we're going to start getting into a little bit of Keith Engle territory here until he gets in. And we'll start talking about the Knicks here. As I said before the show and during the baseball news, listen, Garrett Cole is pitching. I don't know if he's going to be a Cy Young pitcher or not, but he's sure in the conversation. There was that pitch that he threw over the batter's head, way over his head. It's not like he was throwing at him, wagging his finger over at the dugout of Seattle, back at the manager. Kind of fun kind of thing to do, but he pitched a heck of a game the first game, Jack.
Well, the pitch, a couple pitch early in the count when he was annoyed with the batter. What no one talks about, Garrett Cole threw one way over the batter's head, over the umpire's head, I should say. He wasn't throwing at the batter. He threw a crazy high pitch in the back of the screen. Now, people talk about the finger wagging, but they don't talk about what Garrett Cole did beforehand. He was clearly annoyed, really ticked off. But players get over things like that. A case in point would be Garrett Cole when he pitched against Josh Donaldson when Donaldson was with the Twins. Donaldson accused Garrett Cole of doing something with the baseball. Garrett Cole didn't really like it. When he struck out Donaldson, he glared at them, and people thought there was a little feud going. Then the Yankees trade for Donaldson, and Brian Cashman checked with Garrett Cole. Would it bother you if we got Josh Donaldson? Would you care? And Garrett Cole said, go get him. And it turned out they were friends. They wound up being friends, okay? Yeah. And Josh Donaldson would then say, Garrett Cole's my boy, how much he liked him. So all was good there. So I think Garrett Cole is good at letting things go. He was really annoyed with how the batter was manipulating the 10-second pitch count. Exactly, yeah. It was kind of like a tug of war there. And but Garrett Cole, when he signed with the Yankees, it was a 9-year, $36 million a year contract, okay? And you figure, wow, that's too long for a pitcher. But he was 27. It would take him through the age of 36, which was reasonable. And this is his 4th year in that contract. And the Yankees have been getting value for it. He always takes the mound. He stayed healthy. And Garrett Cole reminds you of kind of Whitey Ford. He's like another Whitey Ford for the Yankees in a sense.
Yeah, I think he's been doing a great job for the Yankees, especially when he's not giving up home runs. Clark Schmidt is gaining confidence in his new cutter. Everyone knows Clark Schmidt has been kind of up and down in his pitching. He has come through a couple times for the Yankees lately. So I don't know if he learned a cutter from Cortez or not, but he's got a new pitch that he says he's feeling a little bit better about. So hopefully, Clark Schmidt continues to get better.
Well, I don't know. Does Clark Schmidt have a future in the Yankee rotation this year, at least if everyone's coming back? But if he pitches well, they got to fit him in one way or the other. They absolutely have to, because keep in mind, there's Cole, Cortez, Severino, Rondon, obviously, with the big contract, has to figure prominently. And then there's Frankie Montes. So fitting in Clark Schmidt, but as they say, Mac, you can never have too much pitching.
Yeah, very true. In fact, there's a pitcher down in the minors right now, Drew Thorpe, throwing shutout innings. So there's a pitcher down there that they're excited about. Randon is on a rehab assignment, Jack. So he's starting to get it back together again. He's pitching in the minor leagues now. So hopefully he comes back pretty soon. And the Yankees activate Harrison Bader.
Hey, let me ask you, we're going to have Keith Engle on soon on this show. Have we, of all our hosts on this show, is there anyone more negative than Keith Engle? Anyone more negative, Mac? Come on.
He'll call it
so negative all the time. You gotta remind him about Sanchez, Gary Sanchez hitting a 3-run homer last night for the San Diego Padres. You got to remind them how great Aaron Hicks has been playing for the Baltimore Orioles. after I was saying, don't cut him.
Right.
Just stick with him. He'll be okay. But between Keith Engle and Doc, they drove Aaron Hicks out of town, those two guys. Doc says the Yankees should just eat the money.
Yeah.
I mean, Doc spends money the way Yogi Berra did. Come on. And he wants other people to throw their money around.
God.
Keith has been sitting down and listening to you, Jack. So.
Okay. Well, listen, it's for public consummation. I mean, Keith can go to the video and get this show, play it back at any time. Keith has been too negative when it comes to the Yankees. I got to call it as is, finally. But I do give Keith tremendous kudos for this. He nailed it perfectly with the Judge contract. He was consistent. Unlike you, Mac, he realized what the Yankees needed to do, and Keith is vindicated on that one 100%.
Well, listen, I will tell you this. I don't care if Aaron Hicks hits 40 home runs the rest of the year. I don't care. He didn't do it here, and he had to go. As simple as that.
They weren't playing him all the time. You have to play him all the time. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. You also, Keith, drove Brian Hoyer out of New England. Now he's with the Raiders. And Keith, if Jimmy Garoppolo is injured and can't play, and it's a question mark for the Raiders, Brian Hoyer's projected to be their starting quarterback. What are you going to say if he leads the Raiders to the playoffs?
That's the Raiders' problem, not mine. I'm not going to worry about that. Listen, Aaron Hicks has played 17 games. I know a lot of guys who've played a really good 17 games. Let's wait and see what happens, because Aaron Hicks
is a good team, Keith. The Orioles they look like they're making the playoffs. They are a good team this year. They're not going to go away. And when Aaron Hicks is prominently in their plans.
And when they get healthy, he won't even be in the lineup. So,
No, Mac told me before the show, he pointed out, I missed the box score last night. Gary Sanchez belted a 3-run homer for San Diego last night.
You want him back too?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack wants them all back.
You know what? Again, this is a hard place to play baseball. Aaron Hicks, I hope he does really well. I don't have anything against Aaron Hicks, but he can't help the Yankees win. Couldn't help the Yankees win. That's why he's not here. And it doesn't matter what he does anywhere else. It doesn't.
Well, let's talk about a few other players that aren't helping the Yankees win right now.
Well, there's a lot of those, yes, but it's a long list.
Yes, it is. So they helped Seattle win last night somewhat. I mean, there was an error where Volpe bobbled the ball. He turns to throw to third, and Donaldson is not at third. I don't know what he was doing. But kind of Bush League. Maybe they're thinking about something else. I don't know what they're doing out there. But they end up losing 10-3.
Again, yesterday we just an epitome of how they've been playing. I mean, Herman, who, again, another guy they need to step up when they got injuries in the pitching, has come up. He's given up like 15 runs in 5 innings the last 2 starts, I think, something like that.
Yeah. I
mean, that's unacceptable on any level. Donaldson's stinking it up. Boone's got him hitting third the other night. He's hitting, he's hitting about 120. He's hitting third, and he's getting booed out of the stadium. Something's gonna happen here soon. He's gonna get jettisoned too, and Jack's gonna be telling me how great he's playing somewhere else.
No. Donaldson's contract is up after this year. I don't think Donaldson's lasting the rest of the season. Stanton has a few years left, so he's not going anywhere. DJ LeMayo has 3 years left on his contract after this year. He's not going anywhere. Certain guys aren't going anywhere. They're going to be here next year for sure. I don't think he's lasting a year, because in any event, he's not going to be on the Yankees next year one way or the other.
No, I agree. And listen, as DJ, I'm more confident in DJ working it out eventually than some of these other guys. I mean, and Volpe, to his, again, I don't want to make excuses for the guy, but now he's been thrust because all these other guys are playing badly. With Judge out, the rest of these guys not picking it up, more weight comes on his shoulders than it should. Unfortunately, he could hit 200 this year. And if all things were equal and everything was going the way it was supposed to, and it wouldn't affect this lineup that much. They could probably get away with him hitting in the low 200s and growing.
I'm going to say this. I don't know whether you agree with this statement or not.
No.
Guys, not since the days of Mickey Mantle have the Yankees had a player who's been so dominant as a position player the way Judge is. What he means to that lineup, what Mantle meant to the Yankee lineup back in the day, Judge means the same thing now. I mean, Judge is the Yankee lineup for the most part.
Well, I mean, I would say there's other guys like Mattingly and Jeter, but again, when you look at what the lineup has besides them, I would agree that might be.
But the team didn't collapse if they lost Mattingly or Jeter the way the Yankee lineup would have collapsed during the days of not having Mantle and not having Judge. Now, even Johnny Padres, Game 5 of the World Series in '55, Game 7, I mean, when the Dodgers finally beat the Yankees, Padres said when he saw Mickey Mantle wasn't in the lineup, he said, I can stop that lineup now without Mickey Mantle. That's what I mean. I think opposing teams look and they see no Aaron Judge in that lineup. I can handle that lineup. But when they see Judge's name in there, they know they have a mountain to climb.
That's fair enough. And again, it gives them an extra level of confidence before they ever even start the game, which, is certainly not unimportant. But again, there's a lot of guys making a lot of money that needed to step up, and I can't. Who stepped up? I can't think of anybody who's really stepped up in his absence. So I don't know. Hopefully he's I read an article last night that he's turned a corner. Don't know what that means, and hopefully it's a turning a corner into the lineup
Who
here.
turned the corner?
Judge. He's turned a corner in his
Judge. Yeah.
So the next steps are going to be a rehab assignment soon, and I hope this happens really soon because they need a burst of energy before it's too late.
Well, Randon is on assignment. He's pitching in the minor leagues. They do have a New York a young prospect, Drew Thorpe, throwing shutout innings in the minors right now. So the pitching looks like it could come along, and the Yankees are still in third place, Keith.
No,
everything
is over. We need, but again, you can't continue the way it's gone here the last month or 3 weeks, whatever we judge out. Can't continue, because again, you got 6 or 7 teams that you're going to be battling for three wild cards most likely, and you can't afford these stretches for too long. I love the Thorpe kid. Is it Thorpe? Is his name? Yeah. But he's pitching in high A. I don't think you're not going to see him this year.
Not
I don't
for a
think.
while. No,
yeah,
not for
you
a
won't
while.
see him this year. But again, it bodes well for the future. Rondon, again, he's pitching in Double A and trying to get his arm strength back. I'm not a fan, but right now they need an arm, so he needs to get back here, and hopefully it will bring some decent results.
A little Patriots news: Jack Jones, released in airport weapons case, was arrested Friday at Logan Airport, attempted to board the plane with guns. Now, who in their right mind today would try to board a plane with firearms?
Crazy people. And also a guy who tweeted out hypocritically had some tweets knocking Ja Morant for his issues, right? Yeah. And he tries to carry 2 guns on a plane. I mean, you just can't make out how stupid these guys are. It's there's no other word I can use. It's stupid.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't understand. I don't understand people like this who they know how heightened security is today at airports, and you're going to carry them right on board with you. You're not going to try to sneak them in your luggage. You're just going to walk right on the plane with them.
What do you think's going to happen? I mean, I get stuck. Geez, I've been stuck because I got a disposable razor that I didn't have a cover on. I'm not trying to get guns on a plane. God.
Yeah. Yes. So the wondrous and the great Bill Belichick actually shared some philosophy about drafting players, Keith. And here was his thing. He says, draft good players. That was his philosophy. His board is only 75 players, where most teams are 300.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not making fun of him. That makes sense. You draft good players, but he doesn't draft off need. He says he just drafts who he thinks would is good at what they do, and that's why he brings them on the team.
Yeah, and that's not, again, this has been his philosophy, and it's been fairly obvious. I mean, again, it's not as simple as we draft good players. Sounds pretty simplistic, but it's what he's saying is it's always going to be the best player available, and he likes athletes too, right? So athletic players, and he hasn't done a great job of this, by the way, in the last 5 years. But before this philosophy worked pretty well, and hopefully this year we'll start to go back to the old days. So I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised by anything in this article.
Yeah, he made a pretty cool comparison. With having LT on one side and Carl Banks on the other. That was a pretty good point where he said, of course, Banks isn't good as LT, but they kind of fed off each other. LT was a great linebacker, and Banks was really solid. Had some Pro Bowl years. Yeah,
he wasn't involved in. He was involved with the drafts with the Giants, obviously, but he wasn't making the calls on the final call on these guys like he does now. But all great stuff. He talked this week. I don't know, maybe you're going to get there, but he also talked about how he coached the greatest of all time in all phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah,
and he did, because we know Tom Brady. LT is definitely the greatest defensive player in my mind of all time. And I think Matthew Slater is the best special teams player of all time. So I don't disagree with him in his statements there at all.
Christian Gonzalez, the number 1 draft pick who they got, who kind of fell down to them a little bit. I've heard mixed reviews in training camp. On one end, he seems to be sensational, you hear. Then on the other end, you hear he's working with the second teams and still needs a little work. What's the deal with Christian Gonzalez? Is he going to be one of the better cornerbacks in the league? Was he a steal for the Patriots? What's the feeling right now?
I do think he was a steal. Whether he is that impactful early this season is up in the air. Belichick talked about that this year too, though. What's the plan for him? He said it's a plan for pretty much every rookie. It's to get him indoctrinated into the way they approach the game, the Patriot way, if you will, and the playbook, and how he adapts to that will dictate how much he played and how soon that is. And if he doesn't play a lot early, and he get excited, but obviously the Jack Jones issue could accelerate his need to play more early, because we don't know what's going to happen with the suspension with him. But I have every confidence that this kid will be everything the Patriots think he would be. And I do think it's a steal. A lot of people have said he's top 10 talent, and they got him, much further down than that.
Okay. DeAndre Hopkins mulling over the Patriots contract offer. It's between them and Tennessee, Keith. I would imagine you would want to go with the tradition of the Patriots, to work with Bill Belichick. I don't know. I mean, Titans, he's going to be number 1 wide receiver either team, so that's not going to really pose any kind of thing. I guess the money would matter somewhat too, and I think they both are under the cap. So I would think he just would want to play under Bill Belichick, just to say he did.
Well, they have some bit of a bromance going on a bit anyway. So they seem to like each other, and they spoke very highly of each other. So that's good. I don't think the Bill O'Brien thing really comes into play. I've heard people say he should choose Tennessee because he's going to play with a better quarterback, and that's a bit of a reach for me. Don't tell me Ryan Tannehill's that much better than Mac Jones. I mean,
more experience
at losing playoff games for sure.
Well, I mean,
Ryan Tannehill is on the way out logically. Yeah. They drafted quarterbacks highly the last 2 years. Malik Willis in the 3rd round a year ago, Levis in the 2nd round this year. So that indicates they're not thrilled with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback going forward. And with Mac Jones, he might be the Patriot quarterback of the future, even though he had a bit of a rocky relationship with Bill Belichick, at least in the offseason. But with Mac Jones, you could see him being quarterback of the Patriots 3 years from now, for example. I don't see that being the case with Ryan Tannehill with Tennessee.
No. And again, I think it's the immediate future that matters for Hopkins, because he's not going to be here forever. But He's also important for the Patriots to get in here because they need to evaluate Mac Jones and to give him the best tools around him to do that evaluation this year. I think is imperative as well to give him a fair shake here and to know what you've got. So.
Let me ask you this, Keith. Could the answer be that could the answer be neither Tennessee or New England? Could it be that DeAndre Hopkins is waiting till basically next month to see whether someone gets injured and another team then needs him bad enough that they're going to give him the contract that he wants, that they would have the cap space to make it work?
Well, he could be waiting. There's only a few teams that have the cap space, though. That's the problem. The teams that he would prefer to go to, probably the Bills and the Chiefs, don't have any cap space. I mean, I think the Chiefs are under $2 million and the Bills are just over $3 million. So they're not. I don't see where they can even maneuver to give him anywhere close to what he wants.
But let's say hypothetically one of the players is willing to rework his contract to create the cap space. Could that be done this year still?
I think right now it could, but I think there is a deadline when you can do it. So I don't know how much more maneuvering teams can do, or how much longer. And again, I mean, it's one thing to come up with a couple million; it's another thing to come up with 10.
Yeah,
So
agree. Some New York Knicks news and rumors and all that good stuff. I was reading there should be 3 role players the Knicks might target or should target. They're talking about Taurean Prince, small forward, point forward, great 3-point shooter and a solid defender. Point guard, shooting guard, Alex Caruso. He made the All-NBA first team this season. Can play both shooting guard and point guard. All defensive talent off the bench, hustle. And then there's small forward Buddy Shield, one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA. Of course, these are role players that they would go after, one or all 3 of them, to replace some of the role players they would be losing.
Yeah, those 3 guys, I like Buddy Hield. I like Buddy Hield. It's the best option there from the role player standpoint, right? Because he might be able to fulfill the role that Fournier was never able to do, especially off the bench, and come in and provide some 3 points and some energy off the bench. I like Prince a little bit too. I can't remember the second guy's name now. What was it?
It was Alex Caruso.
Yeah, how's he a first team All NBA player? What are we talking about him?
It's got to be like a defensive player or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't All NBA, that's for sure. But again, they've got a glut of guards. So unless they're going to trade other guards, I don't know that I'm going to bring in a Caruso. So I think some guys and who you target depends on a couple of things. What happens with Josh Hart? And then if you do move one of your other guards in another deal somewhere too. And
I mean, with the Knicks, there's not much they can do. They have a pretty good team. The case of Obi Toppin has to get resolved this year. I mean, I like Tom Thibodeau as a coach a lot, but I'm going to sit him down and I'm basically going to say to him what George Steinbrenner said to Billy Martin when he wouldn't bat Reggie Jackson cleanup. He finally said, either bat Jackson cleanup, Billy, or you're fired. And I'm going to tell Thibodeau, either you play Obi Toppin a lot or you're not going to be the coach anymore. Well, enough is enough with Obi Toppin.
Where are you going to play him?
I don't want to hear that he can't play with Julius Randle. I don't want to hear that. Guys can play together. You had Twin Towers back in the day. You had Ralph Sampson and, Elijah Watson at back in the day. So I don't want to hear about it.
I look at this totally differently myself. Tobin's, he got to play more than he played the year before. He played some effective games.
Hardly.
He doesn't play good enough defense to play more minutes than he's playing right now. He doesn't play good enough defense. And until he does, and management can tell Thibodeau that. And you know what I'd do if I was Thibodeau? I'd walk out the door and take my money with me, because that's not how you should be running this team. You want to bring the players in and tell the coach, here's your roster, and let him do what he wants with it, that's fine. But if you're going to let upper management and Leon Rose and whoever the GM is going to be now.
Yeah, threaten Thibodeau. That's ridiculous.
Obi Toppin is a great talent who's been wasted here with the Nets. And enough is enough. Obi Toppin, I mean, has shown tremendous restraint by not complaining in the media.
It's easy to say that, Jack, but tell me whose minutes you're taking away to give him to Toppin.
The only thing they can do, Mitchell wants a big contract, and they may let Mitchell go.
He can't play center. He can't play center. Again, I know positions are a little bit irrelevant in the NBA today anyway, right? Guys don't really play positions. So maybe you could make a run at a front line with Toppin, playing the five. I don't know, but
yeah, but they never. Something. The Twin Towers, whether it's what Jack said or the Knicks had, they had Ewing and they had Cartwright as sort of like Twin Towers too. That it never works out. Well, they don't win finals with
them. I'm not saying a Twin Tower type thing, but guys who are similar players, and I just think it's irrelevant to think, well, you can't play Randall and Toppin together. Sure you can.
I didn't say
you
couldn't
get any five to blend together.
I didn't say you couldn't, but you got to tell me whose minutes you're going to take away to play Toppin. And who? You're going to take away Barrett's minutes, or you're going to take away
a few minutes off everyone if need be.
All right,
a few minutes off everyone. You take the five starters you have now. Take 3 minutes away from each guy. That's an additional 15 minutes to add on to Toppin's 10, 12 minutes a game. And now he's playing more than he's not playing.
Yeah.
I ain't taking 3 minutes away from Brunson. I'm not taking 3 minutes away from I'm not doing that.
I can't. I mean,
Barrett has been inconsistent.
But Mitchell Robinson, but not anybody else.
Yeah. So here's a trade idea they came up with for LaMelo Ball. All right, Keith. I mean, the often injured player. He moves to New York in exchange for Toppin, quickly, a 20 and 24 first round pick, giving the Knicks the 20 and 26 first round pick and a 20 and 28 first round pick.
Wait, did Knicks get 2 number ones picks in that deal you're talking about?
They already got number 1 picks in the next 5 years anyway. How many more picks do we need?
Well, we need a multiple first round pick, and so does the team. Look, no, I don't think so either.
I can't loud enough. I mean, I haven't seen a trade. I haven't seen this one is crazy. First of all, I don't want any of the balls coming here because his father comes with him. We don't need that distraction of the court. And no, that trade makes zero sense to me. I can't see how that makes any sense at all. We already got a 5 guy who plays this position, so I don't. Who's better, much better, and actually plays. He doesn't miss half the games. So no,
I agree. I agree with that. What did you think about the draft last night? Wembanyama.
Before you get away from the trades real quick, the rumored trade of Paul George for Barrett is absolute lunacy as well. That was a big front page on the Post yesterday. Yeah. He's 33 years old and Barrett's 22. They're the same player. Why would you make that trade?
Well, with a younger version of Paul George, I would make the trade. The younger version. You're right. At age 33, unless the Knicks in such a win now mode, because then you'll have Paul George, you put him with Brunson, Randall, Robinson. It maybe does increase their chance next year of winning, perhaps. But I agree, the 11-year difference, I would stick with Barrett.
The New York papers were all over this yesterday, and I was like, it's not a slow news day. There's got to be something else we can talk about than this. So anyway, the draft last night, other than the number 1 pick, I mean, was kind of anticlimactic because I just saw a bunch of guys that look like each other.
Keith, would you have taken Brandon Miller ahead of Scoot Henderson the way Charlotte did?
Yeah, I like Brandon Miller a lot. I think he's a more of a sure thing. That Henderson's a good player, going to be a great player. But I would have I would have taken Miller before him. I thought it was one of the interesting thing was two interesting things. So few seniors drafted last night. I don't even know if there might have been two. I don't even know. Most of them were underclassmen, or 3 of the first 4 picks didn't even play college basketball. They either played in Europe or the G League or, other places.
Yeah, the old.
How do you think Wembanyama?
Yeah.
Wembanyama, what do you project him to be? I was talking with Mac both before the show and after the show. If you can get the next David Robinson, the exact player David Robinson was, would you settle on that for Wembanyama right now? Mac and myself said no.
No.
We wouldn't say Robinson's a Hall of Famer.
The hype, they're different players. The hype is too high. Look, he could be the next Kobe or the next LeBron. Who knows? He could also be the next Darko Milicic.
Wow, that, and I don't think so.
How do you not? We don't know is the point. We've not seen him play against NBA competition at all. He's a bit on the thin side. He needs to beef up his body frame. I think
he's 19 though, right?
He's a kid. Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah. Look, so I think that you're probably looking more like Shaq than you are like. Yeah, like you said, he's a young kid. He's going to be learning. His learning curve is going to be pretty strong because he's going to be in the NBA now. He's already been a men against boys.
He could be.
Let me tell you, he's so highly regarded, Pax. If the Sixers called up San Antonio yesterday afternoon before the draft and said, "We'll give you Joel Embiid for the number 1 pick. Embiid will sign a deal for the next how many years you want to play for you," San Antonio wouldn't have made that deal. And we're talking about Joel Embiid, how great he is.
Well, yeah, because you want to be able to start your own. You know what I mean? That's the reason why they wouldn't do that. That's the only reason why they wouldn't have done that. Like it's like, okay, this kid's 19 years old. The upside is tremendous. Why would you risk that? If you believe that 100%, why would you risk that for anything? Mm-hmm. You're getting already, somebody who's in his prime where he may have a good 4, 5, 6, 7 years even. But you have somebody who's 19. If you're looking at it for the very, very long term, you could say he's going to play till he's about 35 years old. Now, again, no one knows what tomorrow brings, but you're looking at 16 years rather than 6.
Could be great.
Good morning to Philly Sports Pags, since we didn't introduce him. I don't know if we introduced Keith or not, but Keith just gets in the middle when Jack's talking.
Jack.
And he's all
I could have been Aaron Hicks for all when I came in here.
So anyway, so Pags. The only worry I got, guys, about the young kid, as Jim Jeffco called him, Banana, Wembanyama. The only thing I got is his build, and he's playing against men, and people with thin body frames, and I don't care. He's not going to bulk up and be big. He's just going to be solid. They get injured a lot, so I mean that's one of the biggest concerns I got about this kid.
We'll see. Look at it. There's a whole lot more Milicics than there are Kobe's and LeBron's. So that's all I'm saying. He could be one of the great of all time, or he won't. We don't know. Nobody's got a crystal ball. All these. That's the thing with this draft. In my mind, this kid is a sure thing in people's minds, so I'll give him that. Other than that, there's a lot of crapshoots in this draft. A lot.
Yeah, I agree. Pags, the Phillies linked to first baseman Jamar Candelario, a solid person, bat 260, and his power is going up. Looking for a good first baseman, maybe you got it.
Well, the first base is definitely one of the needs. We're waiting for Hall to come back. He's at least in the minors, and he's doing what he did before. Obviously, Cody Clemens is an okay player, but isn't necessarily, like the answer there. Rhys Hoskins being out for the season is, now what's going to happen when they try to re-sign him? Is it He's been a streaky guy. So, but I still think that their problem is pitching. Pitching is what's going to win or lose games. And as we saw even yesterday, first off, I'm not a big fan of anybody named Marte. I think that's just across the board now. Anybody named Marte, I'm not a fan of. Sterling, our guy, the guy in Arizona, they're all Martes. They all suck, as far as I'm concerned.
The name, okay. The Phillies were swept by the Braves, 2-game series. The other one was canceled.
Got something to say about that. I got something to say about that. That home run by Ozuna at the end of the game, expect the next time the Phillies face him that he gets one go whiz by his head and then another one right in the ribs. That's what I would do. I would have a starter pitcher who you're going to get kicked out and get to him in the order and throw at his head and then give him one in the chest.
I missed
it. Don't go dance. He went dancing around. He went dancing around the base paths last night.
But what is wrong with that? He hit a home run. He's celebrating, Pax.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Bryce? Wait.
You don't go dancing around. You don't go dancing around.
Off the pitchers.
Wait.
He deserves what he gets. He deserves what he gets. Don't tell me that all of a sudden you're going to be high and mighty.
I am going to tell you something. The leader of that Philly lineup is Bryce Harper. And Bryce Harper himself said about a year ago, players are being too sensitive. They should be allowed to celebrate when they do something big.
Yeah, but you don't do it. First off, you don't take 40 seconds around the base paths and you don't start dancing. You don't start playing those games. So he gets everything he deserves.
I agree.
I would absolutely suspect that he is going to get thrown at. And like I said, I would make sure that the first pitcher is not your starting pitcher. You get a starter who's going to wind up getting kicked out of that game, and you throw at his head and you plunk him in the chest, in the ribs.
So
absolutely. And then have the benches clear. Absolutely.
Right. Remember the movie Major League? The fictional player Jake Taylor pointed to the stands, and the pitcher, the Duke, gave him some chin music.
Right.
You guys support that?
Sure.
I think that baseball polices itself.
Yep.
That's always been that way.
When it's allowed to, Pags. The problem is the league doesn't want the players to police themselves anymore. That's part of the problem.
So that's why you just go ahead and you plunk this guy, and you get kicked out of the game, and then you get the warnings by the ump because already one's been kicked out. You bench clear a little bit. You let them know, hey, listen, you want to dance? Here, dance this, dance to this, dance with this bruised rib, because that's how it should be. I fully believe that. You don't. I understand when. Once you've run around the bases, you want to give your high fives, you want to put on the hats, you want to do those things. That's what you're supposed to do.
Run around the bases like Aaron Judge runs around the bases, like you expect to hit more home runs, and that's not going to be your last one.
Right.
You didn't win the World.
When I saw that, I was sitting in the Diamond Club at the time, and I know they could hear me. Says, okay, do you remember sitting on the couch in September last year? Do you remember that? Yeah, I'm like, guess what? We're going to be throwing at you. You think I'm going to forget? I ain't going to let these guys forget either. Trust me. You're going to get thrown at next time, and I'm going to make sure you hear me when I say it.
What happens if you hit the guy in the face with a fastball? That's okay with you?
I'm not saying hit guys in the face.
Well,
yeah, listen, these guys are.
You're throwing at the guy's head. You're throwing at the guy's head. How you know you don't hit him in the face?
I didn't say
Mac is right.
I didn't say throw at his head. I said you can give him some guys who it happened for years. Drysdale, all these guys knock guys down for years. Gibson, they were scared of them. They didn't steal their part of the plate. They would throw under the chin, not at their head, and then hit them in the ribs. It was like what Pag said. Make them feel it. I'm not going to throw it. I don't want to risk a guy's life or his career, but I wanted to know.
Correct. He needs to know that we don't forget. And that's absolutely what's
isn't that wait. You could deliver a better message like Garrett Cole did the other night where he threw the ball high, way over the head of the umpire, and it hit the screen. It was an obvious anger pitch, and he was sending a message. He's not throwing at the guy, near the guy, but he threw the ball high and away to say
that doesn't give the right message. That means that was him trying to tell the umpire that he's calling balls and strikes a little wonky. This has got to be sending a message to the player himself.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
And about
you're not
40%.
Sending the message to the umpire.
And there's about
wait. Is it possible there's a little bit of sour grapes by you, Pax, because the break?
Hey, listen, you know what? I would say the same thing about anybody else who goes dancing around the base paths.
I would too.
Absolutely. So, like I said, if Aaron Judge did it, if any Yankee did it, if anybody who against the Yankees did it, like I said, it doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean?
Do you feel the same?
Check the Rays someday. Who's the kid from the Rays who does a little freaking dance at third base every time he hits a home run?
Do you feel the same way about a guy celebrating right after he hits a home run, going down the first baseline? Is that okay?
That you get your opportunity with the bat flip. You get that one moment, and then you get around, and then you get back to where you're at. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, guys, even when they're not celebrating, they do. I was disappointed the other night watching the Yankee game. Anthony Rizzo, one of the more popular Yankees, if not the most popular Yankee, actually, not with the fans, but within the clubhouse. He hits this long fly ball. He thought it was going to be a home run. He's jogging out of the box.
I hate it.
Goes off the wall, is rolling. He absolutely should have been on third base, but he's on second base because he didn't hustle. And neither Michael Kay or John Flaherty, the announcers, are calling him out on it.
No announcers call guys out. There's no announcers anywhere that calls anybody out for any of that stuff. They pose for ESPN and the highlight reels, and there's guys turning doubles into singles and triples into doubles all day long, every single game. And it's an epidemic of the way the game's played today, which is why I don't really agree with Peg's part about even celebrating out of the box, because unless you know it's in the third deck, you better be running.
Yeah, speaking of the Phillies, Mike Schmidt once got into a big argument with Tim McCarver because he felt McCarver said he wasn't hustling because McCarver mentioned there was one play where Schmidt didn't go all out on. He didn't use the word lack of hustle, but Schmidt got into it with McCarver the next day saying, don't you ever say I don't hustle, because Mike Schmidt took a lot of pride in his game the way he did hustle.
I think he did too.
Right.
I think
that's
but today the easiest thing to do in sports in baseball takes zero talent is to hustle and run to first base. And not nobody, but a great percentage of players don't do it.
Hey, listen, and there was a number of things that happened in that 10th inning that got me a little frustrated. So Stott hits a single, and the guy from second scores. He gets that first run. But actually, the guy's on third, and he tags up, and the ball from right field, you could tell from the moment he threw it, he was throwing it home. And here it is. Stott didn't get to second base. And I'm like, why isn't he on second base? Oh, well, they didn't want to take a chance. What do you mean they didn't want to take a chance? You could tell that ball was airmailed to the plate. So he should absolutely be on second. Well, it didn't figure in. Well, it does figure in. Because now when the guy's in second, you actually start to think about that. They're like, okay, they play a little bit differently. They can say that they don't care about it. They can say whatever, but the truth of the matter is that a lot more plays are available, when you are batting, when the guy's on second than when the guy's on first. And the fact that they missed that completely bothered me.
Pag, you say you had a pitching problem. Do you got a manager problem there too?
I think that some of the decisions that Rob is making is questionable. They are questionable. And I feel that, first off, they brought Marte in, and of course he gives up the 5 runs, and it's unfortunate that that's how it ends. With you have such a great game where it's 0-0, where they've had people that were hitting the ball, and then they were able to get out of the innings and stuff like that. To give up 5 runs in the top of the 10th. Giving up the 1 run, I understand. And then Schwarber making the error. Like diving for a ball he didn't need to dive for, and in the process of that, the ball rolled under him. So 2 runs scored on that. We probably could have tied it up with the 1 run because that would have been a 2-out error. And then, of course, you got the guy who, then you get the home run where he's dancing around. You know what I mean? And truth of the matter is that had I been the pitcher, I'd have thrown it the next guy just for principle. But
all right. Eagles news: Jalen Hurts is nominated for SB among the 4 finalists for the best NFL player in the league. You have Nick Bosa, Justin Jefferson, and Mahomes in that group. So pretty elite players that he's named for the SB award bags. He deserves it. He had a great year.
I expect that he wins it, actually. I think that, this is one of these situations, and not to take it away from Mahomes, not in any way, shape, or form, but I believe that he actually wins it. I think that Mahomes won the MVP. He won the Super Bowl MVP. I feel that, this is Jalen Hurts getting his comeuppance, so to speak, in this regard. I think that he outplayed them, obviously, in the Super Bowl. Obviously, it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but I thought that he was the better quarterback out of the 2 of them, and that he really, had he not gotten hurt, probably would have won the MVP as well. So I think this is where he actually gets that accolade.
All right.
Mac is voting for Nick Bosa. Mac loves defense.
Hey, listen, Nick Bosa is a great defensive player, man. There's no doubt about that. They wouldn't.
You know what, though? On the biggest stage, he came up small.
That's true. Well, the 49ers came up slow.
They had no quarterback for that game. I mean, hey,
hold on. When does the quarterback play on defense?
Well, no. I'm saying the Eagles run to the playoffs. I mean, the Eagles were very worthy to be in the Super Bowl.
We're not talking about the Eagles. We're talking about the defense of the 49ers. How the defense of the 49ers got them those wins.
They played well for a long stretch of the game, but then it became apparent their quarterback situation was futile in that playoff game because Purdy couldn't throw the ball at all. All they could do was hand off. They knew they were well beaten. They had no chance of coming back, none at all.
He's got a point,
so you shut down. It's hard after a while when you know the game is over.
So you're saying that they quit? So you're saying that they quit?
Towards the end of the game, you could make that argument, as cruel as it sounds. They did submit to the Eagles late in the game. There was no chance of them winning at all. It happens at the end of the game. I mean, it's what it is.
I mean,
that's not a great endorsement of them either that they quit, but it is what happened. I think.
Yeah, I love that I was able to squeeze that out of Jack. He's telling me how the Eagles were foo throughout like they foo throughout the playoffs. They played a very weak Giants team, and then they played a quarterbackless. They had 2 quarterbacks that both got knocked out of the game because their offensive line couldn't protect the quarterback.
The Eagles were given a bye into the Super Bowl, basically, but they earned that bye. They only had to win 2 games because they had an outstanding regular season. They earned that bye to get in the playoffs. Kudos to the Eagles. But in the playoffs themselves, they had an easier ride as any team has ever had. They beat a Giant team that was just happy to be there. And you yourself, Pag, said, you noticed the Giant team on the field before the game, and you saw their body language like they knew they had no chance. They were just happy to be there and then to go home. And then they played a Niner team who didn't have a quarterback who could throw the ball at all. I mean, you're not going to get an easier ride.
I don't know. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, was Mr. Could do nothing wrong. He had the halo over his head. That
he was injured. He was hurt.
The Eagles. Yeah. And then within the first drive, he winds up getting hit.
I don't know. I can't buy that argument only because they had something to do with the fact that the 49ers became a pushover because they knocked their quarterback out of the game. So you can't discount that and say,
yeah, exactly.
That's a fluke.
And listen, do you think that it was Brock Purdy and the quarterback play that beat the Cowboys? Do you think that was what happened?
It was a defense.
No.
It was a defense. It was a defense, Pack.
Absolutely. The defense won a lot of those games.
Yeah.
A lot of those games. San Francisco was not this prolific offense. They had a staunch defense. And that was the defense that was winning the games.
And a great running game, Pax. They could control that ball and score with that offensive running game.
Yeah, well, but they also knew that 20 points was enough to win.
On the passing game. If that's all you can do is run, your running game isn't going to be effective.
They didn't have much of a passing game. Their passing game was, hey, let's throw it to Deebo Samuel out in the flat and have him run. That's what their passing game consisted of. They had an extensive running game, and you could say that their passing game was really an extension of the running game.
The run game set up the pass for them for sure.
They do have one of the best tight ends in the league too, Packers. Kittle. I mean,
right? I get that. Who was inconsequential in that game too.
Yes, he was.
Purdy, you forget. Purdy came back. They didn't even allow him. He threw very few passes. They threw less than double-digit passes the whole game.
Jack,
they stopped throwing the ball at the end of the game because he was injured. Jack, Purdy, he physically couldn't throw.
He could not throw. Jack he threw left-handed. That was the only way he could throw. He couldn't throw. He was hurt.
Exactly.
He was done. Yeah.
That's why they changed the rules now. They changed the rules so that they can give them a third quarterback just in case they can't keep their first two quarterbacks healthy again.
Hey, listen. Who knows? The Eagles might need that rule. You never know, Pat.
You never know.
Who's the guy that came in with Josh Johnson? I mean, the Niners played that game. That was ridiculous against the Eagles. I mean, they were playing against a quarterback who was on the left.
Who's going to be your quarterback when Rodgers gets hurt?
We already talked about the 49ers.
That's why you need a guy like Brian Hoyer on your team who can come off the bench and cause damage.
Will you leave Brian Hoyer alone? Jeez.
Oh, my God. 76ers, Pag. Is it the asking price for Tobias Harris too outrageous for another team to pick up? It's $39.2 million, Pag.
I didn't even hear what they're asking.
$39.2 million is his salary.
I know, but I'm not even sure what they're asking for.
I would imagine that's what they want. They want to pay for that last year of another team to pick up the rest of that salary.
Well, yeah, but the problem is that somebody's going to pick it up, but you got to get something back in return. And the problem is that you have him for one more year, and then you're done with that contract. Why would you trade that for somebody else who's going to have 3 or 4 years on the contract, who that player doesn't want? Like, you're not going to be able to get like, all right, if you're Portland, do you trade Damian Lillard for Tobias Harris? You want to be able to unload the contract. You want to, pick up a contract that's only going to have 1 year. So the money makes sense, to a certain extent. And you have you're getting rid of Dame Lillard, which has been the rumor throughout all of this. I still don't think he's going anywhere because the wife don't want to go nowhere. But, it's like, at what point does it not make sense to trade him? It's easier just to have the contract run out.
His expiring contract's worth more than he can get in a trade, right? I mean,
that's exactly how I feel. And not only that, you have his expiring contract. If Harden stays, you have his expiring contract.
That's a lot of money.
All of a sudden. Now Maxi's going to have to get paid, so you're going to wind up losing some of that money there. But I mean, ultimately, I think the Sixers need to stand pat, and just ride this year out. Who knows what this year is going to really consist of? How about the Celtics trading away their team captain?
Wrong guy they traded, that's for sure.
I feel the exact same way. It's just for Porzingis.
Should have been Jaylen Brown, if anyone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Jackson boxing news. Canelo Alvarez versus Jamal Charlo set for September 18th, so they got the deal done.
Yeah, well, Canelo surprised us because Eddie Hearn had been promoting him on a fight-by-fight basis recently, Eddie Hearn, a Matchroom. And now he's signed with the PBC, a 3-fight deal. I'll admit that threw me for a loop. But I guess they have the opponents, that Canelo is willing to fight. He has to fight someone. Jamal Charlo is a very serious threat to beat Canelo. The problem is Charlo hasn't fought for close to 2 years, it seems. And he's really been off for a while. But if Jamal Charlo shows up in form, in the top of his game, he's an absolute threat to beat Canelo. I'm not talking about putting on a good showing, but actually winning that fight. So it's a credible fight, Charlo against Canelo. But Canelo, I guess, looked at his options. He didn't want to fight a rematch with Bivol, and he didn't want to fight David Benavidez. So I guess he compromised, in Charlo. And maybe he sees Charlo as easy pickings, but Charlo's not. Unless Charlo's had a lot of problems, personal issues in these last 2 years, and maybe he hasn't been training as hard as he should be, and that could work against Charlo. We'll see.
Yeah, he's got till September to get ready. Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Sonny Edwards, 112-pound unification for the winter on BAZN, Jack.
Yeah, great fight. Great fight. Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez created a major buzz by, beating like all the big time fighters in the flyweight division. And him and Sonny Edwards is, a really intriguing fight, a great fight that could be made between two little guys. Bam Bam Rodriguez, it was thought that he'd be one of boxing's big stars not that long ago. Then he had a couple of fights. He won, but he looked less than sensational the way he'd looked a bit earlier. So now there's some questions with Bam Bam Rodriguez. And he also had his jaw broken in his last fight, even though he won that fight decisively. And Sonny Edwards, he wasn't in the best of form in his last fight either, but it's still a great fight in the flyweight division. I'm looking forward to it.
Any other news that you got, Jack?
What about the Pags Frank fight? Is that off? What's going on?
I don't know, Pags. How's negotiations going with you and Frank Laterzo?
I haven't. All Frank does is say that, hey, Timber, that I'm a Philly sports fly. That's what he says. That's all he says. I can't get his people on the phone. I think he's ducking me.
I've been saving my pay-per-view for this fight.
Yeah, I thought you guys were getting together the last time we talked. I thought you guys were getting together.
Hey, listen, he was down in the shore. I was down in Atlantic City. Yeah. I was at the Celebrity Boxing Championships, and actually, I did get the crazy red guy from the Jersey Devils have reached out. He wants to set up a some type of fight.
Philly sports kind of thing?
Yeah, like he's like he looks, he paints himself red and goes to New Jersey Devils games, and so you never know. You never know what's going to come down the
speaking of red, I think the Devils should only wear their red jerseys because I think the Devils have the nicest looking jerseys in the NHL. Just my opinion.
Hey, real quick. I was thinking about this yesterday. Here's a very random off-topic question. Is there any baseball team that wears green? That green is their color?
Oakland.
Oakland,
yeah. Oakland and Seattle, right? Like Seattle's like that blue foam green,
like
but
teal kind of in it. Yeah.
But you don't ever see them wear green uniform. They just have the green A.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, who, the Ace? They don't wear. They never wear the green tops anymore.
They used to have the green jersey.
Yeah.
I see. This is one of these questions that I was thinking about it yesterday for some reason. I don't know why it popped into my head, but I'm like, I don't think of anybody that wears green jerseys other than for like St. Patrick's Day during spring training and stuff. But interesting how just wanted to throw it out there.
One thing before we go. Our condolences to all the family members from that sub that imploded. going down there to the Titanic, and shame on all those people in Facebook that are making fun and putting down the people there, saying they were rich and screw them and all that good stuff. Grow up, please. So tomorrow, me, Jack, Pags, will you be with us tomorrow on the debate show?
Yeah, I can come in tomorrow morning.
All right, Pags and Doc, tomorrow on the debate show. Check out Keith on TGI Sports. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for being, and have a great Friday night. Be careful out there.